What's up, guys? My name is Samuel Jake. I'm a photographer and filmmaker based out of Utah, and today I'm going to be talking about why I am a slave to Canon. I have to kind of go back a little bit to when I first started getting into photography. I chose Canon just from a friend referring it. I started out with a 70D, and then I switched to a 6D, a full frame, and this was like 6, 7, 8 years ago. I loved Canon colors. I was just doing photography at the time, and it was a great experience, and I loved using that little camera for a while. My next upgrade from that was the Canon 5D Mark IV, and then I started seeing a lot of things from Sony. And so after using that for a couple years, I switched over to Sony. I had invested in a couple of these lenses and had gotten adapters for it, but was loving using Sony. I had only been doing photography at this point. But I was taking pictures hanging outside of a car of some people doing wheelies on motorcycles, and my lens, it just fell off. I had the 24-70 Sony G Master, and it just like tumbled and hit the asphalt and just was done. And so I had a really difficult time with that just because it was nothing that I had done, and it just, a $2,500 lens just fell off. And so for that reason, I went back to Canon. I had always had good customer service stuff from Canon, and Sony, they didn't even really listen to me, and it's probably, a dumb thing for me to expect them to do anything about it, but it just kind of put a bad taste in my mouth just because I looked online and there were other people having issues with the mounting. And so I invested a ton into Canon. I really honestly have invested in EF glass, and these bodies are just complementary to the EF glass. The EF glass for so long was the staple. I still think the EF glass is the best, and I'm going to explain why it's still applicable and why I haven't switched over to the new RF glass that Canon has come out with. As time has progressed, the mirrorless started coming out, and I have eventually switched over into the mirrorless system. And so I had the R5, had loved using it, and about that same time I started getting into video. I'm shooting this on my Canon C70, and I've loved using that. And I just naturally, from the glass that I have accumulated over the years and switching into filmmaking and video stuff, I've acquired more glass for different things. And so, the real reason that I'm a slave is just because I'm so invested in Canon gear. I'm invested in lenses and equipment and adapters and all these different things. And honestly, I love it. I've had no issues for the past 5, 6, 7 years building into this system. I was a photographer first, and Canon is, in my opinion, the best photography action company that I've loved using it. I've really enjoyed building my brand using this equipment, using these tools to take my photography to different levels. Every company is going to have different pros and different cons with it, but we're getting to that point where these mirrorless cameras are really like making everything kind of be very competitive. Which was something that we didn't have 5, 6, 7 years ago. Everybody was having a hard time with Sony's colors, especially in video, in their A7R2, which is what I had. That's a photography camera, but the A7S2, the A7, all these different things, they were having issues with skin colors and whatnot. So that was also a reason I switched. But at that time, Canon was like the industry standard for I guess excellence, I guess you could say. It was just like, no one questioned Canon's colors. And now people are starting to question it just because what we're able to get in 10-bit video on these little bodies that the A7S3 can put out, that the FX30 crop sensor can put out, they've corrected all those things to where we can really push and pull all of this data in software. The color science and everything has really evolved into this huge competitive market, and then on top of that, everyone's talking about the hybrid system. I have the R5C, and I've loved using it, and I'm going to do some reviews on it. There are some limitations with the battery, but if you can get past those, it's a really, really capable camera and the best hybrid camera that I've ever used. But when I look at what Sony's producing, the A7R5 that just came out is really appealing. But Sony and other camera companies are making it very difficult, and they're putting out a lot of stuff because those companies I see really listening to their consumers. They're really listening to what people are saying and taking the feedback and changing that. And that's the harsh reality of what's happening, is that Canon, unfortunately, isn't as good as listening to their customers or consumers and the feedback they give. And so I'm really hoping with the R5 II that's supposed to be coming out, and the Canon cameras that are supposed to be released this year, that they will make me continue to fall in love with Canon over and over and over again. They let me keep this stuff that I have accumulated, this investment that I've had in EF glass. And to talk about EF glass a little bit more, I love the RF to EF adapter. It's one of the big reasons that I've stayed with Canon, was because of the ability to put a polarizer, an ND filter in the back, very easily switch it out, for photo or video, and then it works on every lens. I don't have to use step-up rings and get different filters and screw them on and have them in a separate case. I'll have them in this little pouch that is super easy to use. It's super small and compact, and it's very just seamless. And so when they announced the RF glass, I was kind of like worried, but then they switched it, they came out with this, and I was very excited because it just kind of streamlines like my hybrid workflow. I am very much out doing stuff, do a lot of action photography, run and gun, and so like my equipment, I'm always needing to switch out. And so the ease of use from just this one adapter is really awesome. And so that's one of the reasons that I stick with Canon, is because I have all this EF glass, it makes sense for me to stay with it. And so RF glass honestly has zero appeal for me. And so with the C70, the R5 III, and the R7, I have a 3-camera system, an A, B, C setup, and I really enjoy using all of them. I have had really good experiences with Canon's customer service as a brand. They have a thing called CPS, and it's an annual subscription, and depending on how much gear you have, you go into different sections of like Pro or like a Cinema grade, and then you get certain benefits to that, paying a subscription. You get like 10 free cleanings, you get discounts on repair, and I haven't seen anything like that from Sony. I'm not aware if they have something like that, but it's just nice to have that subscription to make sure that your gear is all clean. And so Canon's customer service has always been good to me, and so that's one of the reasons why I stick with them. I get asked a lot, what camera brand should you use? And I'm biased to Canon because I've used it a lot. I always suggest that to people. But honestly, you can't go wrong with what we have nowadays. The mirrorless systems that come out make it really easy to use. There's a way easier learning curve. And so like if you don't even need to have the highest model of what it is. Like I could take this R7 that I have, and it's a great camera. It's a fraction of the cost of the R5C, but I'm able to get really good quality stuff with it. I am very much so a Canon fanboy. I love the colors, I love using it, I love the OS system. I have no reason to switch right now, but Sony and other companies are making it very difficult for me to not look the other way and say, hey, that FX3, the FX30, and the FX6 together for video looks really nice, and they have some features on there that are very cool. But like I said before, the RF to EF glass, me having this huge investment and being familiar with this system and the customer service keeps me with Canon and keeps me a slave to Canon willingly. But unless Canon is able to continue to listen to their customers and the consumers like Sony is or like Panasonic is, and change and not have issues like overheating in the R5, like just stupid things like that, I'm gonna have to look at moving forward, investing in a company that's listening to me and others like me. And I think that a lot of Canon people are having the same issue. I hope Canon will listen just like the competitors are, because I don't want to give up Canon, but that's the trend that is happening that I see. From where Panasonic and Sony and all these other companies have come from, their trajectory is just way higher. And so I can't not look at that and look at it and say, this is valid, this is something that I have to take into consideration as a business owner and as an artist using different tools. But because I started in this as a photographer 7 years ago and I've transitioned into video, this is the best system that I've come up with. I've done a lot of research. I'm obviously a gearhead. It's not necessarily what camera brand you use, it's how you use it, obviously, and I stick with Canon. And so until Sony or the other companies are gonna knock my socks off, you're gonna see me shooting Canon's colors, and I'm okay with that. So, if you like this type of content, I'm gonna be doing a lot of reviews on Canon gear, EF glass, different ways to use, different focal lengths, whatever. maybe consider hitting that subscribe button and follow along on the journey. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.